book that talks about the stage.
Boom, boom.
It's called Nine Lives. Nine Lives.
I think to say that there's a lack of documentation of the arts in Singapore is really an understatement. I don't think there's any documentation which is useful to the development and to the construction of a history of the arts in Singapore.
One of the problems that I keep hearing from people in theatre is that there's a lack of continuity in arts writing, that one reviewer may be doing a good job and yet not to stay the course, as it were. So I think in terms of archiving and documenting, it would be useful for people to pick up on when they took over jobs as reviewers or critics.
The lack of documented journal or arts or about theatre in Singapore, there are very few. Because as a drama student, whenever I write an essay or do research about certain things, my sources are always based on the overseas product, like from Brooks lah, from Bragg lah, and then all the rest of these so-called scholars away.
There has not been much in the way of documentation of theatre. There have been some conferences, I think, that dealt with themes of theatre, but a specific publication like this on Nine Lives, I think, is very much needed at this point in time.
The availability of resource material is vital to people who want to do research, who want to understand the scene, the art scene in general.
Okay, listen, seriously, I think we need it lah.
Yeah.
I mean, bukan cakap from the point of view of a theatre artist. Kita cakap from the point of view of a theatre practitioner. And like for some of us, kita theatre students kan?
Oh yeah.
So we need
students, we need it badly for our research, for our thesis, for our what else?
I think maybe kita dah penat lah asyik tengok, baca majalah. We always read the magazines, periodicals, and sometimes we only refer to the introduction of a collection of plays by Singapore Theatre.
As far as I know, Taiwan and Hong Kong, they have arts magazines which provide a lot of space and avenue for discussions on the theatre. In Singapore, even though we do have arts magazine, but it's very much English medium oriented, and if you look at Chinese theatre, it's non-existent, and we are still limited to the newspaper itself.
Yeah, obviously, if they can reduce these Hong Kong things and every day at least one group or even community work, I think it's very important. The press can do that, but I'm not sure if they're interested anyway.
Of course, we would like to see a growing of interest by various arts groups to pay a little more attention on documentation. We would like to try to get more money from them, from our point of view, and we also would like to encourage the use of resource material like documentation, like what we have got in documentation.
I wish to see a good collection of Singapore writing. I think it has grown over the years. If you walk into a bookshop now, there is already a section on local writing. But I think it's in terms of theatre writing, in terms of playwriting, I think there's still room for improvement. I think we need really to put in an effort to build up a good collection.
There should be a company that sets out consciously to record videotape plays that are being produced, and there should be a center where a place where all this can be stored so that people can access all these plays that are on videotape.
In fact, with the NEC's new arts radio station, we'll be covering theatre, for instance, in two ways. We'll be having a program called Radio Theatre, which will be showcasing some of Singapore's finest, as well as up-and-coming talents. And the second aspect is through forums and discussion programs. We hope to get going a series called Counterpoint, where we will bring people from various aspects of the arts, representing different artistic disciplines, bring them together, sit them down in the studio, and we just thrash out, talk about real issues in the arts today.
I think we need more public debate on the development of theatre and how it has contributed to, or how it will contribute to development of Singapore as a mature city for the arts. And I think we need more people in the academic field, in the media field, to talk about it more.
Right. So I think that it's very important for the artists to reach out to the audience, to tell the audience what they're trying to do, and explain to the audience their production, their artwork. And then it's only when the audience get to understand it deeper, then you will generate a more wider discussion and interest amongst the audience. I think currently maybe a lot of our people still don't quite understand art appreciation as yet. They have to be exposed first. They have to be educated. Then you can have upgrading of their knowledge and appreciation level.
I'll just say, the most important thing to me probably will be to be candid and open about these issues. I mean, because some of these issues can tend to be sensitive, politically or, politically or racially or whatever sensitive. And I think, but unless you can cultivate a culture without fear of expression, unless you have that, forums, will fail. It won't serve its function. You can't have a forum when you censor yourself or when you're afraid that your thoughts or words might be picked up and used against you. And I think that should, that's important to me.
I think it's very important for sponsors to understand that documentation is a part of any production. I personally have found it very difficult to talk to people and say, look, we need X amount of dollars to document a project. They will say, why are you spending so much money on that? Can't you save that money? Can't you use that money for something else? And they don't seem to understand that documentation is an integral part of a project. And very often in an exhibition, it is a very expensive part of that project. A documentation of an art exhibition can be quite easily a third of the full cost of the exhibition. And people sometimes ask me, why are you spending so much money on that? There's no understanding that this is important and this money has to be spent, because otherwise the whole project loses its historical significance. Nothing has historical life unless it is put down on paper somewhere, recorded on a video somewhere, and we can retrieve it at some time in the future and look at it and talk about it. So things cannot exist without histories. And in Singapore, we do art as if history doesn't exist.
I think the basic wish is that everybody would agree that documentation is important, because it's pretty much a thankless thing. You don't see the results. Like a playwright cannot say, if I'm doing research, I'm collecting scripts from Singapore playwrights. I cannot promise a playwright that you give me your scripts, you will be read by 1,000 people within 10 months, because I'm not a marketing person, I'm not running a business. I'm collecting the scripts, these documents, to compile them, and you need time to accumulate enough information to make it substantial, make it worth the while of a researcher to come down and take a look. And when you talk about documentation, I feel it's related, of course, to history. So the more time you take, the more information you will have, provided it's consistent. And it's an investment, I think. It's pretty much an investment. And if you support this, you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the next playwright 10 years down the road, So that would be a basic wish list, because if everybody supports documentation, I think the whole effort would be much faster and much more successful, like what you're doing now. I mean, how much time did you take to put up this book? If everybody had been even more supportive, I think you would have at least half the time of the effort, you see.
I think if you were to go to Japan, or if you were to go to Hong Kong, or even if you were to go to India, let alone the so-called developed countries of the West, even if you were to go to Asian countries, even in Malaysia, I think we have a better sense of arts documentation than we have in Singapore. And the reason is very simple. I don't think anybody in Singapore, apart from a couple of artists, really want to engage artistic production in a serious, in a scholastic, in a method or in a way which would be reflective of the need for posterity to be able to come back to these things later in life. The whole process of arts production in Singapore is ephemeral and temporary and constantly dictated by the treadmill of production. There is no sense of having to document something that's going on so that some of it or something of it may be useful for future consideration. And the reason for this is that we really don't have a tradition of arts education. That's what it goes back to.
Yeah, it seems to me that there are like two forms, at least two forms. One is the institutionalized form of art education, you know, like what we normally call like art education, and the other is yeah it's the critical dialogue. It's the critical dialogue that we you know that artists are engaged in, and you know when I was teaching at NIE, it seemed to me that when the thing would really begin was when the students would actually come down to events here at Substation or involve themselves in artist groups and start putting their work out on the mat of you know, art activity and the cultural activity in Singapore, and that's when the education would really begin, and it wasn't happening in the classroom. So it seems like those are two aspects, and to me the second aspect is by far the more important. It's just that critical dialogue that we were talking about before between artists.
The problem, I think, is that Ministry of Education officials do not think about new changes that have happened outside of their parameters. That is, the development of degree studies at La Salle College of the Arts, for example. No doubt the degree that is awarded is a degree from an Australian university. The fact of the matter is that it is there now, and it gives the possibility of careers in film and stage, and in stage management, and in theatre management, and in marketing to students who are that way inclined. So there are jobs available, and the primary and the secondary school should be preparing at least some children for access into those jobs. But they're thinking at the moment only in terms of science, mathematics, and the traditional school subjects, history, geography, etc., languages. Here is a new area that has opened up in society, but the Education Department has not yet responded to it. I think that should change.
I think the necessary stage for me is a theatre company that is rooted in the consciousness of Singaporeans, or at least is rooted in a space that is trying to uncover what is the consciousness of Singaporeans.
Determined, true,
Essential,
vocal.
I find TNS play personally quite provocating. I must admit that I'm still trying to learn more about TNS. I've attended a couple of your shows. Some I understand, some not that much. Okay, and I'm prepared to see more.
In one sentence, I think the necessary stage is it's exploratory in the way it approaches its work. It's both fun as well as brave, and I wish it all the best for its future.
I think the most important thing most exciting thing I'm expecting from TNS is a projection of modern theatre, modernity in theatre, which is rooted in Singapore. And I say this, I have to qualify this, because I think a lot of people are attempting to do modern or postmodern theatre, which to my mind is rooted elsewhere. It is rooted in New York, or it is rooted in other parts, other Asian modernities, but it is not rooted in a Singaporean modernity. And for me, I feel that TNS comes closest to a theatre company working in Singapore, which is struggling to find the shape and the configuration of modernity as it is rooted in Singapore.
After the plays, to stop the actors walking off before there's been chance for applause, and to work together with audiences to define perhaps what is. There's a difference between the mainstream, I think, and the norm. I think that what Necessary Stage is doing is slowly becoming the accepted norm in theatre in terms of postmodern productions, and yet it will never be the mainstream, because people are still going to want to see resolution, catharsis, curtains, 3 acts, that kind of thing. So I think the Necessary Stage to continue to engage audiences and to have them perhaps accept more the work they're doing would be very important.
And the price?
And the price?
$29.50.
It's really cheap. It's really
It's about the price of a haircut.
Yeah, correct. So,
and it's more
waste your
permanent
money
than
on
a
this book
haircut.
than waste your money on a haircut, right?
Yes, you should.
Yes.
And you can keep it for life.
Yeah, you can
they
keep
say
it.
it's nuclear proof.
Yeah.
It says here somewhere it's nuclear proof.
You can keep it for 9 lives.
I think we should have more copies like this. Yeah?
Yeah, I'm very
This is a good
envious.
handy thing to read in the MRT. Yeah? Rather
Yeah, I
than
want to have
coffee
it.
table type.
I'll buy it.
Ali, if I want to buy this book, where can I get this book? Yeah, it's very interesting, you know, Ali.
But okay, you want to know the price first?
Yes.
It's $29.50.
Wow, very
Okay,
cheap.
you know what? Where to get it?
No, I don't know.
Okay, available at Borders, Kinokuniya, Select, and Tower Books.
Wow, that's a great bargain.
Let's go now.
Good, because it's a long time that this is the first book that I've seen documenting theatre. Forgive me for my ignorance, but something which is encouraging and probably a launching point for more to come.